How long does it take before your throat feels better?
I don't know, usually pretty quickly.
Yeah, within a couple of 3 seconds. So it doesn't take long to kill the bacteria because salt kills bacteria.
I think that you had said that in our first segment together, and I'm glad you're saying it again. And for those people that heard the first segment with Dr. Hal Huggins and I, we should be trying this. We should be using this morning and night as well, right? Gargling with salt water.
For people who are interested in their health.
But I want to go back. What about this new procedure where some dentists are using a laser to fill cavities?
Don't know a whole lot about it, but it sounds to me like it's a pretty good system.
Because one of the things that some dentists have said is that when you fill a cavity, you're actually creating trauma in the tooth.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, if you're burning the surface of the enamel, a high-speed drill running 125,000 RPM, if you're replacing a filling, the amount of mercury that comes out of there is horrendous, way above OSHA standards. So you can't possibly go in and measure the amount of mercury while the dentist is cutting it out, or you'll be fined $10,000 and shut down. So don't let OSHA come into a dental office, or we won't have any dentists. And that's because the temperature where the drill hits the amalgam, even if there's a lot of water flowing on it, is up something over 1,000 degrees. And that does burn the enamel. So I think that laser probably offers a great deal of advantage over that.
How have you been guiding people to get rid of their mercury amalgams? I'm sure there's a protocol for that too. I know you've talked about this for 40 years. But can you talk a little bit about it? Because there's a lot of people that really want to take the mercury amalgams out of their mouth. Even though we don't know yet who people are going to be going to, they're going to call you for guidance on who they should go to and what type of material to use. But right now, most of the dentists that do this are using a traditional drill.
Yeah, the high speed. And the thing that is the most dangerous there is which one you're going to take out first. This we discovered back in 1979. Teeth are like little tiny batteries. They have electrical charge on them. And if you take out the fillings, the mercury fillings or nickel fillings, any of them, that have high, well, you got electrical charge, which means that if you touch it with an ammeter, it's either going to read positive or negative. You know, like both ends of any little battery, one end is positive, the other is negative. Well, if you happen to take out a filling that has positive electrical charge in it first, the patient gets worse. If you take out the filling that has negative charge in it first, the patient gets better. Well, what's the reasoning behind that? It took a bunch of years before I figured that out. I was taking a course at the University of Colorado in forensic toxicology. That is, the cause of death being drugs that were prescribed by MDs. What did it do that killed people? And we had to study the brain. Well, that's when I discovered what was happening, because when you take out a positive, or when you take out a filling, you disturb the sodium and potassium balance at what's called the synapse. Nerves are not solid pieces of wire. You know, they go a little ways, they stop, there's a little space, the spark jumps, and then it goes on to another space, and these are called a synapse, and it has to jump across there. Well, in the synapse, there is a lot of chemistry that takes place to get that electrical current to jump the synapse. And sodium and potassium are two of the primaries there. If you take out the positive current filling first, it messes up the sodium-potassium balance so that the impulses go the wrong directions. If you take out the negative ones first, you stimulate 4 of the endocrine glands. We've talked about hormones before here. You stimulate the 4 hormonal producing glands that are associated with healing. The body is constantly undergoing degeneration and regeneration. You know, red blood cells are the famous one. They live 120 days, and then you get new ones in. So all the tissues in the body follow the same pattern, that no tissue lasts forever. We have to get rid of the old ones and put in the new ones. This is under the control of 8 endocrine glands, 4 that are regeneration and 4 that are degeneration. When you take out the positive current filling first, you're stimulating the degeneration process, which means stimulating disease. And we've had, there aren't too many dentists who will follow this protocol. We have a lot of people call in here, say, give me a referral of somebody who can do this properly. And then you find out he's 500 miles away. Well, I'll just go to the guy across the street. So we had somebody call these people back 6 months later to see what they had done. And those people who just went to the guy across the street and had the fillings replaced in any old way and put in any old white filling, 63% had an autoimmune disease they did not have when they went to the dentist. So if you want to create disease, just go yank them out at random, and I'll give you a 63% guarantee you're going to get a new disease or double your amalgams back.
How are the charges calculated? In other words, the dentist that's following this protocol, this new protocol, who's looking at, in the mercury amalgams, the positive or the negative charge, how do they get to that? Is there an instrument they use, or what do they...
There's a meter that you can use. You go into the drugstore to buy a battery, and they've got a meter that you can touch the battery to see whether the battery is charged or if it's worn out. It's a meter like that, only it does something in particular. What we're looking for is amperage as compared to voltage. The amperage is the important part, and you need a meter that will it's called hold the peak, because when you touch it, it's kind of like, a flash on a camera. When the flash goes off, it's gone. And with the older ones from a few years ago, if you listened, you could hear as it charged up again. Well, these teeth, if you want to get technical, are like little tiny capacitors. A capacitor is something that will hold a charge, and you build it up, and then when you release it, you get all of it at once. So when you touch the filling to take the electrical current reading, you get it all at once, and the meter may jump up to 20 or 30, and then it's down to 0 or 10 a quarter of a second later. So you need a meter that will look at the highest point and register that. There aren't very many of those around. But if you can get a dentist who has a meter that will hold the peak amperage, this is the important thing to make sure you are not triggering the wrong set of endocrine glands. So this is a good news, bad news thing, that just yanking out the fillings, you can very easily end up in worse shape than you were to start with. So my advice is there are two ways to do it, fast and right. Take your choice.
I'm going to contemplate that. That's pretty profound.
If it's you who came down with a disease that you didn't have before, it becomes serious, and then you want to back up and say, can't we put this on instant replay and do it over again? Well, it's too late now.
It must be very frustrating to be you.
It's too late, but you're not going to get the advantage that you could if it was done according to the protocol that eliminates the mistakes that I made 40 years ago.
It must be very frustrating and upsetting to be you.
You must be psychic. You figured that one out. Yeah, it is. A little secret here. I used to wake up every morning feeling that it's my fault that these people are going to get 1 million amalgams placed today because I haven't stopped it yet. And that did bother me psychologically for more than 10 years. I've finally gotten over it now to the point where, okay, so people die, so what? Well, maybe not quite that far. But yes, it does still bother me, but I know that in going from 1 million a day down to 150,000 a day, okay, it's baby steps, but they're in the right direction. And there are a lot of dentists out there who have been beat up. Nobody's ever been beat up as much as they did me, because they made me the example worldwide. But I lived through it, and they do. Some of them do, some of them don't. And there are many of them who are not practicing dentistry now because their license has been removed for standing up for their patients in accordance to the way that I've pointed out, that mercury happens to be a poison. But, if we could find an island someplace where we could set things up where there was no dental association, hey, we could cure a whole lot of diseases if we were allowed to present information like what I'm talking to Kim about, if I walk out of the